Life has a way of testing you in ways you never expected. You pray, you push forward, you give your best, but sometimes it feels like the weight of the world is crushing you. You wonder if anyone sees what you're going through, if anyone truly understands the struggles that keep you up at night. You smile in front of others, but deep down you are exhausted. You are tired of the battles, tired of the setbacks, tired of trying so hard and still feeling like you're falling short. But listen to me, God sees you. He sees the silent tears you wipe away when no one is looking. He hears the prayers you whisper in the middle of the night when your heart is too heavy to carry on. He knows the weight you've been carrying, the disappointments you've endured, and the strength it has taken just to keep going. You are not forgotten. You may feel invisible to the world, but you are never invisible to God. People may overlook your struggles. They may not recognize the pain behind your smile, but God does. Every sleepless night, every anxious thought, every moment of doubt, He sees it all. And more than that, He cares. He is not a distant God watching from afar. He is right there with you, walking through the fire by your side. The enemy wants you to believe that you are alone. He wants you to think that no one cares, that no one is listening. He wants you to feel isolated in your pain, to convince you that God has turned His back on you, but that is a lie. The truth is, God has never left you. Even in the moments when you feel abandoned, He is right there, holding you together when you feel like falling apart. Think about this. How many times have you faced situations you thought you wouldn't survive, yet here you are? How many times have you felt like giving up, but somehow you found the strength to keep going? That wasn't by accident. That was God sustaining you, carrying you when you didn't have the strength to stand. Even now, He is working in ways you cannot see. You may not understand why you're going through this storm. You may not see the purpose behind the pain, but know this: God does not waste your struggles. Every hardship, every challenge, every tear has a purpose. He is using it to shape you, to strengthen you, to prepare you for what's ahead. What feels like a breakdown is often a setup for a breakthrough. What seems like an ending is often the beginning of something greater. So don't lose hope. Don't let the pain convince you that God is silent. Just because you don't see immediate change doesn't mean He isn't working. Sometimes the greatest miracles happen in the waiting. Sometimes the deepest lessons come from the hardest seasons. And sometimes the very thing that brings you to your knees is what leads you closer to Him. This is not the end of your story. You are not forgotten, you are not alone, and you are not defeated. Keep holding on, keep trusting, because the God who sees your pain is the same God who will bring you through it. There comes a time in life when you feel like you've done everything you can. You've prayed, you've worked, you've fought through the pain, but still, nothing seems to change. The breakthrough you've been waiting for feels out of reach. You start questioning, wondering why things aren't falling into place. You see others moving forward, doors opening for them, while you feel stuck in the same place, carrying the same burdens. You ask yourself, when will it be my time? When will my prayers be answered? But hear me when I say this, God's timing is perfect. It may not align with your expectations, but it is never late. You may not see it now, but He is working in ways beyond your understanding. Every delay, every closed door, every unanswered prayer is not a denial. It is preparation. It is protection. It is God aligning things in the way that is best for you. The problem is we live in a world that demands instant results. We want things to happen now. We don't like waiting. We don't like uncertainty. We don't like feeling like our efforts aren't producing results. But faith is not about seeing the outcome immediately. Faith is about trusting God even when you don't see anything happening. It's about believing that He is at work, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. You may feel like you're stuck, but God is never stagnant. He is always moving. He is always working behind the scenes, setting things up, putting people in place, and preparing circumstances for the right moment. Sometimes the things you are asking for are not denied. They are simply delayed because God knows you are not ready yet. The blessing is coming, but He has to refine you first. He has to build your character, increase your patience, and strengthen your faith so that when the breakthrough comes, you will be able to handle it. Think about it. What if God had given you everything you asked for exactly when you wanted it? Would you have been ready? Would you have been able to manage it? Sometimes the very thing we think we need right now would only overwhelm us if it came too soon. That's why God makes us wait, not to punish us, but to prepare us, not to frustrate us, but to position us for something greater. Waiting on God's timing is not about sitting still and doing nothing. It's about trusting Him while continuing to walk in faith. It's about being faithful in the small things even when you don't see the bigger picture. It's about praising Him even before the miracle happens. Because when you trust God's process, you stop trying to force things to happen on your own. You stop worrying about the future and start focusing on what He is doing in you right now. There is a purpose in the waiting. There is growth in the waiting. There is transformation in the waiting. And when the time is right, God will move. Suddenly, doors that were closed will open. Suddenly, the burden you've been carrying will be lifted. Suddenly, everything that didn't make sense before will come together in a way you never expected. So don't lose faith. Just because things are taking longer than you hoped doesn't mean God has forgotten you. His silence is not His absence. His delays are not His denials. Keep trusting, keep believing, because when God moves, He moves in a way that changes everything. And when your time comes, you'll look back and realize that every moment of waiting was worth it. There comes a moment when the weight of life feels unbearable. You've carried so much for so long that exhaustion settles deep into your soul. You try to be strong, to keep going, to hold everything together, but inside you feel like you're reaching your breaking point. You tell yourself you have to figure it out, that you can't afford to fall apart, that you have to keep pushing forward even when you're running on empty. But hear me, there comes a time when you have to let go and place it in God's hands. You were never meant to carry these burdens alone, the stress, the worry, the fear. These are not weights you were designed to bear. But we do it anyway, don't we? We try to solve problems in our own strength, thinking that if we just work harder, push through a little more, we can make things right. But that's not how faith works. Faith is not about holding on tighter. It's about surrendering. It's about understanding that God's power is far greater than anything we could ever do on our own. You have prayed. You have fought. You have given your best. Now it's time to trust. It's time to stop carrying the weight of things you cannot control and place them in the hands of the one who can. When you release your struggles to God, it is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of trust. It means you understand that He sees the full picture, that He knows what's ahead, and that His plan is always better than yours. But surrender is not easy. It requires letting go of your need to control the outcome. It requires faith even when you don't understand. It requires believing that God is still working even when nothing seems to change. And that is where many people struggle. They want to trust God, but they are afraid to let go. Afraid that if they stop worrying, things will fall apart. Afraid that if they stop pushing, nothing will happen. But that is not how God works. He never asks you to fix everything on your own. He never expects you to have all the answers. He simply asks you to trust Him, to bring your burdens to Him and leave them there, not just for a moment, not just until fear creeps back in, but completely, Because the truth is, the more you hold on to your worries, the more they will weigh you down. But the moment you release them to God, you will find a peace that cannot be explained. A peace that surpasses understanding. A peace that comes from knowing that the same God who created the universe is in control of your life. Think about how much lighter you would feel if you truly let go. If you stop trying to carry everything on your own. If you stop replaying the what ifs in your mind and simply trusted that God has already made a way, that is what He is asking of you today, to lay it down at His feet, to let go of the stress, the anxiety, the fear, and place it all in His hands. You are tired because you have been trying to do it all alone, but you don't have to anymore. Surrender does not mean giving up. It means giving in to God's greater plan. It means resting in the assurance that He has already worked it out. It means knowing that even in your weakest moments, He is your strength. So take a deep breath, release the burdens you have been carrying for far too long. Let go of the fear, the frustration, the endless worrying. Place it all in God's hands and trust that He will do what only He can do, because the moment you truly surrender is the moment you will find the peace and strength you have been searching for all along. There comes a time in every journey where exhaustion sets in. You have fought battles no one knows about. You have smiled through pain, endured through struggles, and held on when everything in you wanted to let go. You have whispered prayers in the silence of the night, hoping for a sign, longing for relief. And yet, day after day, it feels like nothing is changing. The weight on your shoulders remains, the obstacles before you seem unmovable, and your heart is weary from waiting. But hear me, just because you are tired does not mean your breakthrough is not coming. Just because you don't see the answers yet does not mean that God is not moving. Do not mistake silence for absence. Do not mistake waiting for abandonment. The very moment you feel like giving up could be the moment just before everything shifts. The enemy wants you to believe that nothing will ever change, that your prayers are in vain, that your struggle will never end. He wants to drain your strength, to make you feel hopeless, to convince you that you will never rise above your circumstances. But that is a lie, because God has already written your victory. And if you do not quit, if you do not let your exhaustion turn into surrender, you will see the breakthrough that has been prepared for you. God knows you are tired. He sees the weight you are carrying. He understands the frustration, the doubts, the moments when you wonder if He is even listening. But He is not just a God of promises. He's a God of fulfillment. He does not leave His children in the middle of their storm. He does not abandon the ones who trust in Him. If He has allowed you to go through this season, it is because He is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Think about all the times you thought you wouldn't make it, yet here you are. All the nights you cried yourself to sleep, but still woke up to fight another day. All the moments you were on the edge of giving up, but somehow, some way, you found the strength to hold on. That was not by accident. That was not coincidence. That was God sustaining you, keeping you, strengthening you, even when you didn't realize it. And if He has brought you this far, He will not leave you now. You are closer than you think. The finish line may not be visible, but it is there. And when the moment comes, when the breakthrough arrives, when the prayers you have prayed for so long are finally answered, you will look back and understand why you had to endure what you did. You will see how every delay was necessary, how every struggle shaped you, how every moment of waiting was never wasted. But in order to receive what God has for you, you must keep going even when you're tired, even when you don't understand, even when nothing makes sense. Because faith is not about trusting when things are easy. It's about trusting when things are hard. It's about believing in the promise even when the reality seems impossible. It's about knowing that God is faithful, not just sometimes, but always. So don't give up. Don't allow exhaustion to steal your faith. Don't let the enemy convince you that it's too late, that you're too broken, that your situation is beyond repair. God is still in control. He has not forgotten you. He is still working, still moving, still preparing the way. And when the time is right, when His plan has fully unfolded, you will see that every tear, every struggle, every long night was leading you to something far greater than you could have ever imagined. Hold on. Your breakthrough is coming. It's easy to feel like the weight of life is too much to bear. You have faced obstacles that seemed impossible, endured hardships that tested your faith, and carried burdens that no one else could see. You've prayed for change, for relief, for something to shift, yet the struggle continues. You are tired physically, emotionally, spiritually, but listen to me. Your breakthrough is coming. The pain you are feeling is not permanent. The struggles you are facing are not meant to last forever. Sometimes when we are at our lowest, when we feel like we have nothing left to give, that is when God is about to move in ways we never expected. But the challenge is holding on long enough to see it happen. The enemy wants you to believe that this is it for you, that this is as far as you go, that the pain, the disappointment, the exhaustion will never end. But that is a lie. If you have breath in your lungs, God is not finished with you yet. He did not bring you this far just to leave you here. He did not allow you to walk through the fire just to let you be consumed by it. No, He is refining you, strengthening you, preparing you for something greater than you can see right now. There is purpose in your pain. Every tear you've cried, every silent battle you fought, every night you've spent wondering if things will ever change, none of it is wasted. God is using it all. You may not understand why right now, but one day you will. One day you will look back on this season and realize that even in your hardest moments, God was working. He was making a way where there seemed to be none. He was aligning things in your favor even when it felt like everything was against you. The breakthrough is coming, but you have to stay the course. You cannot give up now. You cannot let exhaustion steal your faith. You cannot let the waiting make you walk away from what God has promised you. The enemy knows how close you are to stepping into something greater. That's why the battle feels so intense. That's why the weight feels heavier than ever. But hear me, this is not the time to quit. This is the time to dig deep, to stand firm, to hold on to your faith like never before. You may be tired, but you are not defeated. You may feel weak, but God is your strength. You may not see the way forward, but God is already making the way. And when the moment comes when He opens the doors that no man can shut, when He turns your mourning into joy, when He replaces your struggle with victory, you will understand why you had to endure what you did. You will see that every moment of waiting, every tear, every battle was leading you to something greater. So don't give up. Don't let go of your faith. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. There are moments in life when you feel like you have reached your limit. You have prayed, you have waited, you have done everything you know how to do, yet nothing seems to change. The weight of it all is pressing down on you, and no matter how strong you try to be, deep inside, you are exhausted. It's not just physical tiredness, it's a weariness that settles deep into your soul. You wake up with it, you carry it through the day, and it follows you into the night. You are tired of the battles, tired of the waiting, tired of the endless cycle of struggle. And in your heart you wonder, does God see me? Does He hear me? Does He know how much I am struggling? And God only knows how much I wish that I could say. Let me tell you, yes, He does. He sees every tear, every moment of frustration, every silent prayer you've whispered when no one else was listening. He knows the weight you are carrying, the burden that has drained your strength, and the thoughts that keep you awake at night. He knows the pain you don't talk about, the battles you fight in silence, and the moments you've questioned whether you can keep going. And He is not ignoring you. He is not distant. He is not absent. He is right there, closer than you realize, holding you even when you feel like you are falling apart. But here's the truth. God never said you had to carry this weight on your own. He never asked you to fight these battles in your own strength. He never intended for you to walk through life feeling this overwhelmed, this exhausted, this defeated. You were never meant to do it alone. That is why He tells you to cast your burdens upon Him. Not just the small ones, not just the ones you feel comfortable letting go of, but all of them. The fears, the frustrations, the disappointments, the things you have been trying to handle by yourself for far too long. But letting go is not always easy. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we have to fix everything, that we have to find the answers, that we have to keep pushing forward no matter how exhausted we are. We think that if we just try harder, if we just do more, things will finally change. But that is not what God asks of us. He asks us to trust Him, to release the weight we have been carrying, and to place it in His hands. Because the truth is, we cannot do it on our own, and we were never meant to. You are tired because you have been fighting in your own strength. You are weary because you have been carrying burdens that were never meant for you to carry alone. And God is saying, let it go. Stop trying to figure it all out. Stop trying to force things to happen in your own power. Stop holding on to the worry, the stress, the fear. Place it in my hands and trust that I will take care of you. There is freedom in surrender. There is peace in releasing the weight that has been suffocating you. And when you do, when you finally let go and give it to God, you will feel the difference. The heaviness will lift. The burden that seemed unbearable will no longer feel the same. Because when you stop trying to control everything, when you stop striving in your own strength and start relying on God's, that is when everything shifts. This does not mean the journey will be easy. It does not mean you won't face challenges, but it does mean that you will not be carrying the burden alone. It means that you will walk with a new strength, a renewed faith, a peace that does not come from your circumstances, but from knowing that God is in control. It means that even in the waiting, even in the unknown, even in the struggle, you can rest. You can rest because you are not walking this road by yourself. So take a deep breath, release the weight you have been carrying for far too long. Surrender the battles you have been fighting on your own. Place it all in God's hands and trust that He will take care of you. Because the moment you truly let go is the moment you will find the strength and peace you have been searching for all along.